that's John's territory.
No, it might be yours.
For me, it's the same damn question every week.
Yeah. What about the body?
Yeah, I'm still identified with the body. It's frustrating.
Yeah. I was listening to Self-Love, the Original Illusion, and Nisargadatta said that the yoni is not the body, not the mind, not the consciousness. And for some reason, that just really hit me very, like very strongly, actually. The yoni is not the body, not the mind, not the consciousness. So what the heck is he or she? And then, the teaching of Ramakant, you can summarize it in just maybe 5 words. Stay with prior to beingness. That's about it.
You want to say that again?
Oh, I think you can summarize his whole teaching with just 5 words. Stay with prior to beingness.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Parabrahman, isn't it? I mean, like, forgetting everything. I know that Siddha Rameshwara said, forgetting everything is Parabrahman.
Well, never have nothing, like the invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity.
Yeah.
Where there's not even a sensation of presence, because there's your prior to all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they talk about great causal body, and there's nothing beyond that to know. There's nothing. It's just a formless knowledge. And you could say that when presence, arises, you feel the sense of presence, but you're the knower of that sense of presence. The formless knowledge of this sense of presence. This is the first thing that's known. And that's why everything is appearing on presence, and you just keep your eyes on presence. Right. Keep that attention on presence. And eventually there won't even be anything to keep attention on, because it's just presence. But in the beginning, you just come back in presence, knowing that everything's on. So when you talk about body and body-based problems, you're so far removed from that.
When I first read Ranjit, like he was talking about action. The very next moment is from action to what is it? He said action becomes non-action in the moment. And I never did really, never really understood what he was talking about. And then it kind of like dawned on me, and it's when there's just no one there. There can be no karma, no one to pick it up. It just ends right there. Because if there's not the somebody or the someone there, then it's just action happening, and that's it. Action becomes non-action in the moment. Just boom.
Exactly. In the hospital, you see the heartbeats.
Yeah.
And it goes boom, and then returns, and boom, and returns, and boom, and returns. That's very, very similar to how your activities are. There's absolute silence and stillness, and then activity, and then back to stillness. Up, activity, and back. But there's no, like Maharaj would talk about, there's no footprints in memory. There's no impressions. You pick it up, drink it, put it back down, but you're not thinking about it. And that it is like if you were to see in an emergency room and you see your heart and it's like boop, 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 boop. That's the action. The action spontaneous in the moment, and then recess. Spontaneous in the moment, recess. Because you're the holder of the body, but you have nothing to do with the body as far as body pressure, ego, mind, intellect pressuring you or saying how this is coming about or trying to form some kind of story. You're just formless, using form in the moment and then dropping it.
When Ramakant says, you're a master, act like it. In a sense, he's saying, act by not acting, by not buying into, act by not acting, kind of.
Yeah, just die, just die. And some action is needed in the moment. It's started, finished, and done. And to act like a master is to know that everyone is the formless you are, that you are, the presence. Everything is appearing on spontaneous presence. So everyone I'm seeing and everything that I'm seeing is in that bubble of illusion that's in presence, that's appearing on presence. And you're just, you're the awareness of presence without having to be aware. It's just presence. Okay, there's presence, and you are. And the I am, or, when you say stay with, remain with the I am, any of these things, that's just what it is. It's prior to beingness. Prior to the sense of presence arising, this sense of presence has arisen or rose on you, the you that you are, the nothing in which the sense of presence stirred as something in which projected the entire world on presence. And the same, again, we go back to dream. Lay down at night, the sense of existence mixes with the consciousness that is in the dream state and projects the dream world. And it's the same now because it's just the one consciousness in which everything is contained.
Yeah. The dream world is the subtle realm, as opposed to the gross realm, which is the awake realm. Because in the Amrit Laya, he talks about the different bodies, the causal body, and then there's one more, I think, transcendent, something like that.
Yeah, I think you have the gross. The gross body is this physical form,
right,
made of the 5 elements. Then you have the causal body, or the subtle body. The subtle body is the thought process, mind, ego, intellect, and the whole process of thinking and thoughts. Then you have the causal body, which is kind of the awareness of these thoughts and such. And then the great causal body, which is the expansion where nothing is in back of, because the great causal body knows the causal body, knows the subtle body, and knows the gross body. But none of those know the great causal, because the great causal, all these other bodies are appearing on that. And then, like Maharaj would say, forget about the bodies. You are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain body. You're absolutely formless. This is just to show you that everything has appeared on spontaneous presence. Everything, meaning thoughts, body, the entire sense of existence, all of these things have appeared on your spontaneous presence, invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity that you are. And you just remain with the sense of presence, remain with the I am, be with you always. All of these are pointing to the fact that prior to beingness, none of this was occurring. So you don't have to start a mind storm about something that's happening, that's briefly occurring, that's not actually happening.
It's like the wind, correct? Like
Exactly.
South Road, a wind.
There's just a stirring, like we talked about in the beeping thing just now. And Andrew was saying, it's like, how can you be active and inactive at the same time? It's because you're steady and unmoving, and this movement has occurred and then recesses. And this steady and unmoving is the background to all movement. And the presence is where all of this is appearing and all this movement is coming about due to the fact that it's moving about the energy, the spirit, as we talk about, clicks with the body and you say I. Ramakat Maharaj uses that example a lot, where the spirit clicks with the body and you say I. And for a time, you believe that this I, since you now know your existence, which you did not previously know, there was nothing to know, but now you know this existence, and you identify with the body because the body is how you first know this existence. But then you go and someone tells you, this guru tells you, which is your own self in the dream consciousness, that says, no, 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 you are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain the body. This sense of existence is formless existence. It's not form. So you know yourself in a real sense. then you know yourself as the knower of presence, or the fact that you're aware of presence, which is more subtle than even the presence. And all of this is appearing on this presence. And then you look at it and you say, okay, well, how can there be problems, daily life problems, if I'm this formless knowing, I'm this awareness of this presence, and everything is appearing on presence? So anything that's appearing on presence is absolutely illusion, and I remain prior to being this. And that's the true reality which you will begin to project. Because as Maharaj says, you're the projector of the entire world. It's projected. And it's projected based on ideas, beliefs, and concepts that you're holding about yourself, is giving it a little skew of personhood. And this is just not true. You're formless using form. Picking up something, drinking, putting it down, and finish. If there's a disturbance in the 5 elemental body, you'll feel it. You'll feel some anxiety. You'll feel some body pressure of something. But you know, oh, wait a minute. Even in nature, I see the disturbance in the 5 elements can cause, like we were talking about, sometimes really nice weather, sometimes really hot weather, sometimes storms and thunderstorms and wind. All of these are 5 elemental disturbances. So since this body is a 5 elemental body, it will go through some disturbances. But you just know that, but this 5 elemental body appeared on my spontaneous presence. I'm the knower of the sense of presence, and I'm totally removed from this. So I don't have to worry about the changes that may be occurring. And when the mind in the subtle body form starts to try and pick and choose why I'm feeling this way, well, there is no reason to feel it. This body is undergoing some changes in the 5 elements, and I'm not concerned.
But you do have to take care of the body.
Yes. But like if you're sitting and suddenly you're overwhelmed with depression or sadness, or some kind of something happens and you feel some kind of feeling, this is a disturbance in the 5 elemental body. And that's just something that is happening that will go very quickly when it's not given a story and it's not having attention, where thoughts are birthed. See, every thought will birth more thoughts. So one thought about I'm feeling depressed will birth a lot of thoughts about depression. Not only that, it'll do a search from past and say, oh, this is when I was depressed. This is why I was depressed. And then you'll project that into the future. So you have desire and fear, because you'll have the fear that when will I not be depressed anymore? And, oh, I hope this depression doesn't last, and all this kind of stuff, instead of something that comes and goes. Imagine the trees when it's wintertime and all the leaves fall off. If they had consciousness and could think, oh my God, what just happened? All my leaves have turned color. I'm dying. Oh my God, look at my leaves. They're falling off. Oh, what is next? Am I falling down? Am I rotting? What is happening to me? And then it's green again, because that's the kind of cycle of the 5 elements. And they just do their thing. And you're the holder of a 5 elemental body in which you know yourself in a real sense. So you remain with that sense of presence and allow the 5 elemental body to do what it does. Of course, like you said, and Maharaj has said, you go to doctors, get your blood pressure and your normal checkups and all that. You want to keep the body in good working order. And you do your job, do your duties. Whatever duties you have, you do in the moment, and that's it. But you don't have to take a credit for these things that are occurring naturally.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you have a friend who's suffering with the body, you know, and you can't explain this to somebody really, because that's not where they're at. So it's so it's hard to watch someone go through a lot of suffering because they are identified with the body. And so I guess you just hold the space for them to feel whatever they're feeling.
One, the idea too is anyone can sit and watch their breath and know that the breath is connected to the thought process.
Yeah.
If I breathe really heavily, my mind will start to flow faster. And if I breathe more slowly, my mind will slow down. So once I can slow this mind down through breathing and I start to pay attention to the thoughts, I can start to observe the thoughts that I'm having about the situation that is occurring in the body. And whether I identify with the body or not, at least like when you're saying, at least that gives the person the opportunity to see the thought stream as an object and start to disidentify themselves from that thought stream.
Right. Yeah. Because who's watching the thoughts?
Exactly.
Something other than thought that's watching it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you can, it's like watching television. You sit there and sometimes what's going on TV, you're like, oh, I can't believe this person is doing this, or, oh, it's very scary, or, oh, there's a lot of action, or, oh, it's very sad. Maybe a character is experiencing something and you start to feel that. But you're separate and apart. You're the observer or the witness of this stuff that's happening on the screen. But you're far removed from it, or at least a little bit more removed from it. And you don't have to go to somebody and say, hey, you are not body, you are not body, you're not going to remain body. Just the simple act of observing the thoughts and kind of looking at the breath and the thoughts at the same time and knowing that you're separate from these thoughts. You don't have to flow along with them anymore.
Right. In fact, they stir up the body and cause actually even more suffering. Even on a physical level, the mind affects the body.
Well, because you become more acute and attention-wise. Number one, suffering is a mind-created state of paying attention over and over and then projecting in the future of, is this ever going to stop? Rather than pain, which is like, okay, my arm is in pain. I take pain medicine, but my arm's still in pain. But that's why you notice like people in hospitals and stuff, when they get them to do activities or get them to do therapy or something like that, their mind is diverted from the pain that they may be in to something different.
Right.
So if your mind is focused on just this pain, it could be just a pinprick on your finger. And if you focus in on that, then you're going to create a thought stream of, wow, my finger really hurts. I think they talk about that, about the itch. And Siddharameshwara Maharaj talks about you have an itch. And if you keep scratching and scratching and scratching this itch, this mind, or the barking dog, the dog is outside barking and this mind just starts barking, or this itch, you just keep scratching until you scratch your skin right off because you're so kind of focused in on that. And what your attention goes on grows naturally because you're focused in on that and you're not paying attention to any of the other illusory layers. You're just focused in on the one. And that's how you are able to use this body, mind, ego, and intellect to turn inward and focus on the sense of presence, which then when you're focused on the sense of presence, it's like a black hole. It just pulls you in. And all the illusory layers are dissolving. Mantra allows you to keep yourself slowly, silently, and permanently clear and clean of all these body-based ideas that may be flowing that you might identify with. Because once you start to feel this presence, that's the spontaneous conviction, oh, so that I. So now you're less likely to sit there and flow along with thoughts about body-based situations or body-based problems because you're formless. You're knowing this now.
You're throwing the suffering process in reverse.
You're paying attention to the sense of presence and pulling all the layers, all the illusory layers, all the thoughts that are talking about this suffering that is being projected. You're paying attention to the presence on which all of this is appearing, and you're removing yourself from it. I think Nisargadatta Maharaj talks about the neighbor's child. You know, the neighbor's child has a fever, but it's not affecting you or your child. And that's the same thing here. You're being removed because you're actually observing the illusory layers that are appearing on presence, because your observation or your attention is on presence itself. And presence is steady. It's constant, where all these things are appearing on presence. So it's not something that, like the illusory layers, if you said, okay, concentrate on this thought. Well, this thought is just flowing by. You have to jump in the river and flow along with this thought. And even then, the thought expires after a while. But presence does not. Presence is behind all of everything because everything is appearing on that presence. So once you keep your eyes on the prize, so to speak, and just in presence, and you use this body to dip into the nectar of immortality and just sip on it, then all of these things can come and go, but the background is presence. It's all appearing on presence. And presence is appearing to you. Then you start to, as you continue to be more and more and more aware of the sense of presence, then you start to know yourself as prior to the presence. Because prior to beingness, this presence was not there. Beingness is that sense of presence. So prior to beingness is prior to the sense of presence. The only thing that you're aware of is the very first thing that was appearing on you, which is the sense of presence.
And you need the body for that.
Well, you need, the body is an instrument to feel this, because otherwise, imagine the nothing. The nothing that we talk about is just all of everything. There's no, you could look at the space in this room, and unless you have objects in the space, you won't know that there's space, because it's just all of everything. It's just everywhere. So in order to have this knowledge, this knowingness, you have to use the body, and then you have to discern this presence underneath all the flowing of thoughts and all of these things. You have to be able to use this mind, ego, intellect to be able to discern from what is passing and what is not, what is changing and what is not changing. What is not changing is the sense of presence. It is the background of all experience. It's the silent, when the beep goes up and beep goes down, that silent, that where it always returns. It beeps up, beep, beep, and comes down. Beep, beep, comes up. Because that spontaneous activity in the moment arises from that silent stillness, that nothingness.
And where it gets confused with karma is when we think we're doing that. As long as it's just happening, then there's no karmic result. There's no, because there's not a person doing it.
Yeah, as you identify more with the sense of presence, the body, you're shaking it off. You're wearing it like the loose clothes. You know, you don't have any karma from the type of clothes you wear. You don't, it's just like, it's something that's there. It's a layer, an illusory layer on presence. So this illusory layer is being able to allow you to perform some activity in the moment by using it. But it's like your car. When you get inside your car doesn't have karma. Even if you're a very bad driver and you're driving like crazy and getting a lot of tickets, it's not the car's karma.
That's good.
That is good.
One of the things I enjoyed reading, looking at Ultimate Truth, you know, some people were questioning about when they're dealing with something and so forth, and, you know, things doesn't seem to be going right with their mantra and so forth and so forth. He keeps, Ramakant keeps insisting, do not make effort, do not think, just do it, you know, and just relax and just do it. You know, don't take it on, in other words.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was really, I found that very, very good, because sometimes, you know, like, you can get into a struggle, you know, why am I not experiencing this? Like I felt it last week or whatever, or something like that. And he says it's all the mind playing tricks with you, you know, it's that tricking you from the backside, basically.
Yes.
You know, everything. So.
And the only way that would happen is with body identification. If you're sitting there and you're saying, oh, I felt it last week and now I don't feel it or whatever, then there's body identification that needs to be dissolved by inviting the attention of the invisible listener with more mantra. Progress is just a thing in mind. You just continue to do the practice of the mantra, as Maharaj has said, until the conviction comes. Oh, so that I am that. And if I'm that, I can't be this, because all of this appears on that. So there's no way I can be that and this. There's like presence, and that's it. The invisible listener is pulling you in like a black hole, and all of these things that you are not are basically dissolving and being removed.
One of the things I like about what he says, if you do what I say, I give you 100% guarantee.
Yes.
And I've, I know that for instance, not really to compare, but, for instance, with Ramesh Balsekar, I remember reading, something from him, and he says, well, it really depends if it's your destiny or not. And it seems to be like, well, maybe, I don't know. Basically, they seem to be saying a little something different, because Ramakant is basically saying that if you do it, maybe it's, if it's your destiny to do what I'm telling you to do, if you do that, then, you will actually, I give you that 100% guarantee.
Yeah, because you are the formless reality, and you just have to discard all these illusory-based, body-based illusion and all of that. He gives 100% guarantee because he went through this process. This process is guaranteed, quote, enlightenment, because you are dissolving all the illusory layers. You're already there. You're already formless. You're already the absolute. And these things have appeared on presence. And this is the instruction on how to remove these illusory layers so you get to know yourself in a real sense and you're not trapped in the illusion. And it's the guarantee, just like if you buy a microwave lunch and it says microwave for 3 minutes, microwave for, stir, microwave for 2 minutes, and it's going to be this. It's the same. Or baking cookies. You look at the recipe, it says this much flour, this much sugar, this much water, these many eggs. You follow that, you produce this. Our entire lineage has a proven record that if you do this, this will happen. Because they know Bhajan, shaking apart so that you begin to start to feel the body more loosely and you're not so connected with it in a mental frame. The mantra, which is erasing slowly, silently, and permanently all the illusory layers that are appearing on your presence. The devotion, because you start to invite the attention of the invisible listener as you're removing these illusory layers from your selfless self. Just I, just I. But it's a cake baking recipe that's guaranteed, like Maharaj says, if you do this, through this practice, Balseb Maharaj said, and meditation. Why is meditation important and getting rid of the illusory layers? Because the illusory layers that are the thought stream or something like that, you could pay attention to rather than that sense of presence. So once there's enough illusory layers removed, you can start to sense your presence, and you can pay more attention to the presence than through the passing illusory layers. And the more attention you pay on presence, as Nisargadatta Maharaj has said as well, the more you remain with the I am, it pulls you in. And it pulls you in through the layers of illusion that you're continuously remaining with your selfless self, be with you always. And all these things are no longer in your vision. You're remaining with your selfless self, being with you always. All the illusory layers are dissolved and discarded.
Yeah, you have to pay attention with the mantra, though. It can't be mechanical, because I noticed, I was using the mala beads to, and I realized I was just trying to get through the mala beads instead of, concentrating on the mantra itself. And I found, it's probably better not to count, just staying with the, what it actually means, I know what it means. So like focusing on that instead of doing this mechanical process.
Right. And it keeps the mind busy. I found that in India, that when you continue with the mantra, activities are going to occur, but it keeps the mind busy. So you're not creating experiences on these different things that you're maybe happening to be doing in the moment. Mala beads might not be such a great idea because you're involving the body right away. And the idea is the mantra gets you in touch with your formless nature and removes you from body. So you don't really want to be doing too much activity with the body whilst you are remaining with that sense of presence that continues to feel like it's growing because all the illusory layers are shrinking.
Yeah, it does sort of feel like it's in the way in some cases because it's like, well, I'm already there. Why do I need to count anything?
Yeah. You don't, involving the body in any kind of meditation is not probably the best thing because you want to experience yourself formlessly so that that's impressed. So that then when you're not in the quote meditation, you're still in that presence. You're still feeling that presence and you're not pressured with the body knowledge because the illusory layers that are pretending and kind of keeping you in the role of a body are being dissolved. So there won't be anything for those things to land on because you'll be with your true formless nature, be with you always, just I, without anything else. Again, as you are in the morning when you're first waking up and before your mind starts to produce thoughts about the world and put you in it. It's just I, formlessly aware with nothing to be aware of, just awareness of awareness.
Another thing I find helpful is like, if there's a sound outside, it's like, well, who's hearing that sound? It's not the body that's hearing, it's not the ears that are hearing it. It's
That's true.
presence that's hearing that.
Yeah, everything in the body is just an instrument for your presence. And that's why you need it, because presence is formless. So presence doesn't have the ability to speak, doesn't have the ability to see, doesn't have the ability to hear. So this body form in which presence is using is able to hear, but the presence in the body is the one that's hearing. The presence in the body is the one that's seeing. And then the mind that comes along with the body is interpreting what is being seen. And I think Siddharmeshwara Maharaj says it best, that you, the selfless self, have 100 different beds, airport ready at your disposal, all different cars, many, many different meals. Everything is laid out for you. And you are tasting and feeling and experiencing these things through all these different forms. But the whole world is there to serve you.
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't seem that way.
Well, because you is not Kathleen. Kathleen and her immediate experiences is just an object in consciousness and in a moment, like a scene or a story in that moment in time.
Right.
You, the selfless self, are all things. That's why you know yourself as a sense of presence. And Nisargadatta Maharaj, and I think Siddharmeshwara Maharaj also talks about prana. Like you can consider yourself, if I breathe in and breathe out, this air, this prana is going inside this body and then being breathed out and all into the outer part. Well, this same air that I'm breathing in and breathing out is also being breathed in and breathed out by Kathleen and Andrew and Trish and Keith and Mary and Manohar. All this, it's breathing in, breathing out. And that you could consider this air as that formless life force. And that life force is entering this body, moving it around, and then being breathed out. But it's continuously here. And everyone is breathing it in and out. And you consider these as like balloons, basically, empty forms in which this formless life force energy is being breathed in, doing something, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. And that's it. Like, that's the whole kind of, if you want to talk about presence being like space or sky, you can consider it. I'm breathing in and breathing out, and you're breathing in and breathing out the same. Because it is the same. That's yourself. This is not. This is just an instrument that happens to be taking in and taking out and being able to be moved about. Like batteries, basically. If you had each one of us and we had to have batteries, you take the batteries out of this body give them to that body, then this body moves around. You take the batteries out of that, put it in that body moves around. They're the same batteries. And that's the same as presence. If you take the presence away from this body, it's a dead lump of the 5 elements with no nothing. Like Maharaj says, burned or buried. And you can say, okay, now presence is here because it's been removed from here. And now presence is over to Kathleen and removed from Kathleen, lump. Then presence comes back here. This lump comes alive again. Because if presence is not there even for one moment, the body is gone.
That's Ranjit says, you without you. In other words, like you, capital Y, without you, small y.
Yes.
And that oneness is really, that's when you really, that's a celebration. When you have that, just the oneness, you're not expecting anything because it's all, like you do things and you don't expect any kickback or whatever, as, like I think Siddhar Rameshwara says, you don't looking for something in return or whatever, because it's all you, basically. It's just that celebration, it's just a oneness.
And the body can't pressure, or the mind can't pressure about the body dying. Like there's no death. If you're the formless life energy that's being breathed in and breathed out, how does it die? It cannot. And the same with the presence. Presence is everywhere. It can't be cut or burned or anything. It's, again, like Ramakant Maharaj always talks about, the bathroom and the ashram. The space, which is alive and active, we call that selfless self. When the walls come down, the space, or the selfless self in the ashram and the selfless self in the toilet, they're one and the same. When this wall comes down as John and that wall comes down as Andrew, the selfless self, the space, is one and the same. And that's where the knowingness is, oh, so that I. So what is there to fear? Who is there to fear? How is fear happening? And what is it that would fear? This formless presence is afraid of what? And if there is fear, then there's an identification automatically with being a body. If there's an idea of separation, there's an idea that I'm a body. And I know I'm not body. Maharaj has said many times, you are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain body. That's why the beauty is, you sense this sense of presence in your meditation for the first time. You continually be with you always, this sense of presence, allowing the illusory layers to come and go. Remain with mantra to clear away, like wiping the screen to make sure no dust or dirt gets on. Remain there. And it just explodes of, oh, so that I was not body, I am not body, I'm not going to remain body. Therefore, the sense of presence that I'm feeling, this I identify with. Okay, I'm not body, I'm this presence. And eventually, as you identify and say, I am this formless presence more and more, then that's when the awareness of this presence, and it turns slightly so oh, this presence has appeared. And there's nothing. And everything, this world, this consciousness, and all the things that I seem to be seeing are absolutely illusion because they occur on this presence that is appearing to you.
It's like about the tree. I was thinking that the individual person is like the individual leaf. And when the leaf, starts to turn yellow and red and all that stuff, like old age, and eventually it'll drop off. But that doesn't say anything about the tree. It's just the normal process. So it's just that we have this idea that I am this leaf and, want to be green forever. And and getting upset when the leaf starts turning. And that's just the normal process.
Exactly. And like Ramakant Maharaj has said, this body is moist. And as long as it's moist, you feed it and you water it, just like a plant, it will continue. And when it's no longer moist, it will dry up. And that moisture is no longer there in this body form. So there's no life in this body form. But the body form, you are the holder of the body. And when you know yourself in a real sense, this body has appeared on presence, whether it's there or not, you are. And you know this because you use the body while it is here as an instrument to know this sense of presence. In duality, you become the singularity by forming and knowing this sense of presence. And then, okay, this body, whether it's here or not, I am. However, I'm not going to know I am because there's no body form in which to use as an instrument to know. But again, the nothing that the something appeared into and goes back into nothing. But there had to be a continuum for something to appear. Something appeared to you, and then you know existence. But this has appeared to that you are, and whether you know or don't know, you are.
I think Nisargadatta Maharaj, I think sometimes he uses the word fullness instead of nothingness. I mean, the fullness. Is that right? I think I've heard him say that, or at least reading, reading that he sometimes uses the word the fullness. We have the fullness.
The fullness because there's nothing you want. There's nothing other. There's no, it's just absolute. It's all things in everything. That's like they say, okay, you are not this body or you are all these bodies. So the fullness is just, it's lacking nothing. It's absolutely full. There's nothing that it's lacking because there's nothing other than. And that's that indescribable. That's why the only way you know yourself or that sense of existence is in body form. You're out here and all of a sudden you click with the body and you're like, oh, I exist. And you sense that sense of existence. Your fullness is emptiness because there's nothing other. There's, again, if at all you want to compare, you compare yourself to sky or space.
Right.
And the sky or space is both empty and full. Full because there's nothing, it's lacking. It doesn't need anything. Sky doesn't need more clouds or, even a different color. It doesn't need anything. It's absolutely nothing. It needs nothing.
That's because it is everything.
Exactly.
It is itself.
Exactly. And there's nothing other than that self to know. We know the sky because we look up and it's blue and we can judge whether it's cloudy or sunny or whatever. That's like Nisargadatta Maharaj says too. The sun doesn't know that there's nighttime. The sun does not experience night. The sun shines. That's it. We experience night because the moon moves around and the earth moves around and all this kind of stuff. But the sun doesn't know light and dark. And nor does it know the change of days. It just always is. We're the ones that try to divide everything and label things and say, okay, because we don't see the sun now, we'll call it night. And now the moon is shining. No, the moon was always there. It's just now that the sun is not projected. The sun is being projected off the moon, which the light of the moon is the sun because the moon doesn't have the ability to do anything by itself. It is a reflection of the sun. And in the same way, if you're talking about the fullness, the sun is completely full. It lacks nothing. It doesn't need light. It doesn't need heat. It doesn't need, it's absolutely, we're the ones again who say, oh, when the earth rotates, we now call it Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. The sun doesn't know this. The sun doesn't know that it goes down, or that it rises. It has no idea that it does these things. It's just, it is. And then all the illusion is the appearance of the change of the sun, which the sun is not changing. I mean, maybe it is microcosmically, over billions of years it might be getting, I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but I'm just saying, as in general, we are the ones that create the illusion or the appearance of the sun moving or the sun doing anything other than just shining. Oh,
Okay.
yes, it looks like, is that a good space for everyone?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
See you guys next
Thank you,
week.
John.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.